what do you do to make sure that content isn't late? Build in extended deadlines. If you really need content on a Friday, tell them you need it on Monday and get it in early because chances are they'll be a little bit late or they might miss something or who knows what, but you got to build in extra time. There's usually layers of approval that this has to go through. So if one thing is late, it bumps everything else back. So just build in extended deadlines and it's absolutely best practice.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the WIM podcast. Women in Influencer Marketing is a first of its kind exclusive networking group made up of inspirational women. This podcast is where we explore influencer marketing and get real about women in business. Find us wherever you download podcasts. And of course, you can always find us at iamwim.com. That's iamwim.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I am recording this a little bit early. Why? Because I will be in California for about 2 weeks without my microphone, definitely with my computer, because there's no way that I can leave that, but that's okay. And I wanted to pre-record a couple episodes for you guys. So very excited to be here. I will be, enjoying the beautiful, sunny California weather. Hopefully, I will be chilling after a successful LA experience and hanging out at VidCon when you are listening to this episode. If you are at VidCon, by the way, I really hope that you stop by. I'm speaking on one panel, I'm moderating another, and I'm also participating in their mentorship program. I love VidCon. I've spoken about it just lately on this show, but I mean, it's like everything that I stand for. It's all about networking and education and connections and loving everything about the influencer industry and the creator economy. So I hope you guys are there. This year is pretty wild because there are 3 big creator economy or adjacent events that are happening simultaneously. So I'm feeling like everyone's more spread out and I might miss some people. I know some people are at cans. I'm sure the French say it much more beautifully, but I think it's cans, right? I never say it out loud. I always see it written down. Everyone's there and that's a film festival. So it's so interesting. I read this article actually, thedrum.com is talking about how the creator economy is really having a huge presence at Cannes like never before, despite it being historically a film festival. So I know tons and tons of people who are going. I hope that's awesome. I also hope the influencer marketing show is awesome. We have a booth there and Stacy from my team will be there. You can win a free membership at our booth. So I hope you stop by and say hello. And that's such a great conference as well. I went last year. We got drinks after. It was a really good time. So it's a great conference if you're local to New York or in the tri-state area and don't necessarily feel like going all the way to France or all the way to California like I am. But selfishly, I hope a lot of you guys are at VidCon and will come and say hello. I'm going to be there all the way through Saturday because I think both of my panels are all on that Saturday, which I know is past the industry track. So I don't know if anyone will be there besides creators, which is all good because I love meeting creators. So it's fine. This week, I wanted to sort of parlay the conversation that we just had at our most recent manager meetup. So we don't record those. We don't record our brand connects. We don't record our executive circles because they're more intimate conversations. And I want everybody to feel really safe in that space. There's no dumb questions, to feel safe to ask anything you want, to answer in any way you want, not just have to think about it, thinking oh my God, this is being recorded. Who knows who's going to watch it? So we don't record them. They're incredible, especially the manager meetup one. So we have it every month, the third Thursday. And it was a really interesting conversation this past week. So today we're going to be talking all about when content is late and how to manage everybody's expectations. Hey, 'Cause I love meeting creators. So it's fine. This week, I wanted to sort of parlay the conversation that we just had at our most recent manager meetup. So we don't record those. We don't record our brand connects. We don't record our executive circles because they're more intimate conversations. And I want everybody to feel safe in that space. There's no dumb questions, to feel safe to ask anything you want, to answer in any way you want, not just have to think about it, thinking oh my God, this is being recorded. Who knows who's going to watch it? So we don't record them. They're incredible, especially the manager meetup one. So we have it every month, the third Thursday. And it was a really interesting conversation this past week. So today we're going to be talking all about when content is late and how to manage everybody's expectations. All right. So when content is late from the creator's standpoint and or the timeline just gets like all fucked up from the brand side, the agency side, there's so many people that where deadlines are just missed. How do you handle it and what do you do? I will say that in my experience, the majority of the time when content is late, it happens to be because of the creator. So some of the conversation that we had in the manager meetup was obviously from the manager's perspective and, questions around, does any of the illness fall on me to keep my creators organized? Like, am I expected to be the mother and the therapist? And like, should I indulge in that? Like, should I condone that and do that for whatever it takes to get my creators content in on time? Is there an expectation that if there is a manager in the mix, that he or she should be the one responsible ultimately for getting content on time? Like that's part of the manager's responsibility to, push the creator to make sure that they're delivering what they need to deliver, have it be on time, et cetera, et cetera. All these questions were being asked. And then the manager, from their perspective, at what point do I like say enough is enough? And my name is on the line, or, I need to penalize you for being late. Can I incentivize you for being on time? All these questions came up. It's a really, really interesting conversation. It's certainly nothing that's ever going to be going away. And your response to it is probably going to be unique to you. I think that like my 2 cents is the following. I think that if you're a manager and you are managing talent that is like chronically delayed on deadlines, they miss them all the time. There's a few things that you can do, but ultimately I want to empower our managers listening to say that like, it's your choice what you want to do. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to acquiesce. You don't have to stress yourself out. You could just say, this does not work for me and call it a day and work with another creator instead. Or you could be that support system for them. You could help them improve their business operations by, streamlining their calendar, their deadlines and all that. But everything is a choice. And I just want to like level set with that and make it known that like that is my stance on it. It's completely up to you. So what I will say is, I wonder if there's a certain dollar amount that justifies a lot of this like quote unquote bad behavior. Like if an influencer is your number one earner, they're bringing in that much money, there probably is a threshold in which you kind of turn a blind eye, or at least you make a lot more successions, right? But I will say that like the bright line test, which might be monetary, if they're lower on your roster, they're not bringing in that much money and they're also a nightmare. I hope that that's a clear indicator that like cut the fat, like they're not someone you want to be working with for a variety of different reasons. But that sort of makes your decision easier. So don't fret over things that should be easy decisions, right? I know it's not easy, quote unquote, to like, tell somebody that it's not working out and you guys should part ways. Hot tip that I always give to people is I always say, we're putting a pause on things and you can sort of like lay on the sword, fall on the sword a little bit if you want and be like, I want to make sure that I can justify the commission that I'm taking from you. And, it seems as if we're not aligned. It seems as if, we're putting in a bit more work than we're used to. And, let's put a pause on this for now. Be really clear about what would unpause the pause, right? Like, we really need to hit these deadlines. Why? Because it's not even just our name is on the line. It's like if one partnership gets pushed, then it almost feels like every other subsequent partnership then is affected. And so if it affects your entire business and it's sort of like a virus, it just spreads, like it's just never worth it unless they're making a shit ton of money for you. Right? So I just want to be clear about that. I do think that there's a threshold, a monetary threshold, but even then, you got to see how it affects your overall business. Is it seeping into other things? Is it affecting the morale of your team? Because it's never an isolated incident. It always affects other things. So I think you just have to look at it really holistically. Feel free to put a pause on things. Feel free to then say, if we're pausing, like it is because of these missed deadlines. And, I would love to continue working together, but we'd have to, ensure that we could hit these deadlines appropriately, get everything that we need on time, reading the briefs, et cetera, et cetera. And hopefully they come back and they change. But I will tell you realistically, like very few people in this world change. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Just popping in to remind you to check out Women in Influencer Marketing, the membership community. So if you're enjoying this podcast, this is just a sliver of all that we are. So we have a mentorship program. We have casting opportunities. We have 24/7 community forums. We have events in real life, virtual, masterclasses, and so much more. Those women who join our membership have had amazing things to say. We've been around since 2017. And if you're not a part of it, you are absolutely missing out. So I encourage you to check out our website, iamwim.com, and learn all about us. iamwim.com. If you go to the events page also, you'll see that we have a regular event. Get the most out of your membership. It's for new members, but it's also for those of you who might be curious, like, what is WIM? Do I have a place there? How do I fit in? Come join. I'm there live. So are lots of other people. And it's a cool opportunity for me to teach you all about what we have to offer. Also, giving you this freebie, we actually give away a month free when you attend. So if you're interested in not only learning about WIM, but also experiencing a whole month free, definitely check it out. You can go to our website again. It's iamwim.com. That's iamwim.com. Sign up for our next event. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully around the WIM community. So I just think that like successful people hang out with successful people. If you want to be more successful, you have to think like a winner. You have to like be able to surround yourself with people that think like that as well. And the people who are just like chronically having issues being professional, they're not going to reflect well on you. They're not going to make you a winner because they're not ones either. There are probably lots of things that are getting in their way. Maybe it's imposter syndrome. Maybe it's, we talked about ADHD on the call. I have ADHD too. I come up with coping mechanisms to make sure that like I can live a fully functional life. If they aren't able to help themselves, chances are you absolutely won't be able to do it either. From the brand's perspective, what do you do to make sure that content isn't late? Oh my gosh, build in extended deadlines. I feel like everybody does this, but for anyone who's listening who has no idea what I'm talking about, if you really need content on a Friday, tell them you need it on Monday and get it in early because chances are they'll be a little bit late or they might miss something or who knows what, but you got to build in extra time. Really important. Managers can use this too. Agency people can use this too. Basically, there's like multiple chains of approval, usually layers of approval that this has to go through. So if one thing is late, it bumps everything else back. So just build in extended deadlines and it's absolutely best practice. The other thing that was really interesting was the concept around building in protections in your contracts. So I think that this could apply to managers in their influencer agreements. I think that this could apply to agencies and brands in their influencer agreements. But basically saying essentially, we have deadlines and every day or whatever cadence you want to make it, maybe every 3 days that it's late, maybe you give it a grace period, whatever. We deduct this amount from your fee because you can only incentivize people so much. You can only sort of like chastise them or try to teach them to do better. That can only go so far, but money talks. And so if their bank account is being affected, it's a motivator for a lot of people and it's nothing bad. It's just business, in my opinion. So I think that it's a great idea. We heard a couple people talking about it in our manager meetup from an influencer perspective for those agreements for representation. I thought it was a really clever idea. So something to think about there. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention in terms of getting in content on time is to explore automations. Because what I will tell you is that when I had my own agency, we built out so much tech. And one of the things that we always had is in our CRM, there was a section for a due date. Every week before that due date, an email would automatically go out to the person associated with that campaign. And it would say, is everything on track to be delivered on time? And within a week, if the answer was no, chances are you can fix it. But if you ask the day before and the answer is no, I don't know, it's like questionable, like if you're actually able to fix it at that point. So a week before, check in. It would be great if you could, automate that. I'm all for automation, but at the very least, add that to your list of things to do, because if you check in, I think 7 days before is a great moment to do it. And just checking in, is everything running on time? Just wanted to resurface these certain things, maybe include the brief, maybe include some more visual examples if you could provide them then. We've had a couple pieces of content come in already, actually, and, they've included XYZ and we've really thought it was great. So while you're putting finishing touches on it, just something to consider. Have an open line of communication. Encourage them to say, if you have any questions whatsoever, let us know. This is how to reach us. And the last thing being, if there is any reason at this point, a week before, to think that your deadline is not going to be missed, you must let us know by X day at X time so we can resolve it, because deadlines are really important to us. Look, we can go on and on about why people miss deadlines, mostly creators. I don't know that that's like the most important thing. Some people are talking about how creators never had a real job, quote unquote. A lot of them, especially like Gen Z, they never did much of, corporate life at all. They explored content creation and it took off for them, and good for freaking them. But they don't necessarily know what it feels like to have a boss and to have deadlines and to build a calendar. And can make the argument that that's what managers are for. Can make the argument that a manager who's really good at their job should be doing much, much more than managing this person's calendar. So I bring all that up to say, the reason why they're not delivering on time, we can guess, we can put on our guessing hats and say, I don't know, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But I don't think that's worth our time. You know me, guys, I always want to be really solutions oriented. So these are a few ideas that I had for you, but this is such an interesting conversation and I want to hear your thoughts. So check out the YouTube video of this podcast, of this episode, and comment below and tell me what's worked for you, for creators to hit their deadlines, for creators to not be late, for, the content to be approved on time, which we didn't really touch on much, but it's a whole conversation about timeliness, professionalism, and I want to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys next week.
If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at iamwim.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we could ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week.